But my dad was a pretty smart guy. He said, no one's going to let a black man drive a Rolls Royce around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a chauffeur's hat. When I'm driving it, I'm going to put the hat on and drive my car so no one will bug me. And I can still drive my Rolls Royce. Yeah. What if you just hate school because you don't like people telling you what to do, right?
Yep.
And the funny thing is, people talk about, the States is racist and Canada's racist. No, it's not. Two of the most racist countries in the world are actually Spain and Japan. And you will never know that because, if I would have said to someone 30 years ago that two of the most successful businesses would be a hardware store and a coffee shop, they would have laughed you out of town. It's like, oh, ha. But you look at Home Depots and Starbucks or Tim Hortons. I can tell you my super trick that some of your people can use here.
Yeah.
It's one little free thing I'll throw in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Reinvention Unlimited podcast, where we take a break from the regular model of interviewing our guests about their achievements and focus mostly on how the person in the chair came to be. So every one of us has faced challenges in our lives where we come to a fork in the road. So this is where we need to make a different choice and basically reinvent ourselves. So this is a place where we learn about the life of our guests, from how they grew up to where they are today and where they're going. It's my commitment to immortalize, honor our guests' life, to give them an opportunity to leave a record for family, friends, and fans. So our guest today, I first met in 2003 when I went on a sales call with Dale Carnegie Training, and I sat with him and his wife and found out about who he was and what he was up to. So we have Sam Beckford today. Let me tell you a little bit about Sam. So in 92, Sam graduated with a university business degree and started 5 different businesses in a row. All 5 were failures. Business number 6 was a dance and music school for kids, which he started with his wife, Valerie, in 1995. The same year, they were married. Friends and family members thought that their dance studio venture was a nice hobby, but would be a lifelong recipe for poverty. That little business surprised everyone and started doing very well. And today they have almost 3,000 active students that come to classes each week at their 3 locations. Sam and Val started investing in commercial real estate in 1999. They have been very successful leveraging this success. Sam decided to start helping other people purchase real estate. Recently in 2017, Sam was able to help an investor buy a $1.4 million building with only 6% down. And over the years, Sam's commitment to contribute to others has resulted in helping over 200 investors buy or build commercial property. In 2003, he took his success in expanding his dance and music studio into yet another business venture called Successful Studio Strategies, where he helps music studio owners with business management and owning commercial real estate. 2 years later, he began giving marketing and commercial real estate advice to general businesses and professionals in multiple industries. In 2005, he co-authored 4 business books with Steve Chandler. Steve was our very first guest, season 1, episode 1 on this podcast. The books are 100 Ways to Create Wealth, 9 Lies That Are Holding Your Business Back and the Truth That Will Set It Free, The Small Business Millionaire, and Business Coaching, How to Make $100,000 to $1 million per year by helping small business owners succeed. He's been interviewed on national television about his small business and commercial real estate success, and he's been featured in various national and international print, radio, and online media. He's an electric car enthusiast. He owns one of the first original Tesla Roadsters delivered to Canada. He visited the original Tesla factory in 2009 and became an early investor when the company went public in 2010. So he sold his Tesla holdings in 2014 at a substantial profit, and I'm sure we can imagine what that would be. He's an avid skier. He loves the awesome views from BC mountains. One of his bucket list goals is to ski on Mount Mauna Kea on the Big Island of Hawaii on one of the rare days each year when it has skiable snow. He also enjoys boating in the mountain waterways of British Columbia with his family on his 33-foot Larson named Goal Setter. He's very actively involved in several different charities for poverty relief in developing countries. Sam and his wife, Val, they homeschool their 3 children. So he works mainly from home, and he's the family cook. He's obsessed with making the perfect spaghetti carbonara. Despite private chef lessons, multiple YouTube videos, and 2 trips to Italy, he still can't get it right. And we'll have him in the studio right after this. Hey, Sam.
Hey, George.
How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. I'm really excited. I've been trying to get you for a while. You're
Yeah.
got it pinned down, man.
Yeah. It's funny. I heard your intro, and the one thing you didn't mention is I'm one of the most unreachable guys around because I've done zero social media ever.
Yeah, I see that. I saw that.
I'm not even on LinkedIn, and I don't have a doorbell.
Yeah, you don't have a doorbell? Seriously?
No, I have a
And
gate.
you don't have a business card either.
I don't have a business card. I don't have a doorbell. I'm like the most unreachable guy around. So
Yeah.
anyways.
Well, business number 6 was successful, and your success took off after that. So it was like, I remember when I first met you, you were like, I don't have a business card. I thought it's kind of odd. And you said, yeah, I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because for the last, almost 25 years, people have said, do you have a card? And I say, no, I don't. And they're like, oh, are you out? And I'm like, man, I've never been in. I just no, don't do them.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So, man, I'm really excited to dig in here and find out who the real Sam Beckford is. And tell me a little about where you were born. When and where were you born, man?
Sure. Well, I'll give you my backstory. And so the number one question I usually get is, what exactly are you? Are you Spanish? Are you Indian? Are you, from the Azores? So anyways, my dad's actually Jamaican.
Oh, wow.
And my mom is Hungarian. So the story of how they got together is interesting. My dad left Jamaica when he was 18 years old, and he went to London, England. And my mom escaped Hungary in the 1956 revolution, the Communist Revolution.
Oh, my God.
She actually had to run overnight. She was like 21 years old, and she was working in an office. And there was an old guy there that said, this place is going to get bad. You have to get out tonight. Get out. So she took her sister's kids, and they basically ran 50 miles, like 70 kilometers.
When was this? What year was this?
1956. It was the Hungarian Communist Revolution. So they escaped, and they deked out people with machine guns, and they just had to literally Von Trapp it out of there, right?
What a story.
So she ran across into Austria, and then she ended up in London, England as well. So anyways, my parents are both in there, and my dad was going to the Mennonite church, which my mom was also going to. And my mom didn't really speak English. Do you remember that show years ago, Perfect Strangers? With Bartakamus and Kuzinladi?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so my mom was kind of like that. She didn't really speak English at all. And there was a very narrow staircase to go into the church. And my mom was walking down the stairs of the church, and my dad was trying to walk up. So my dad said to her, are you going out? Like, are you going out of the stairs? Because you want to go in, right? Yeah. And she thought he said, would you like to go out? So super. If there were a Google Translate, there would be no Sam Beckford today.
That's amazing.
So I figured I'm not even supposed to be here. I've been trying to make the best of it. But yeah, anyway, so my parents met, and it was interesting because,
she must have been flattered because he wasn't, and it must have occurred to him like she wanted to go out with him.
I don't know what happened. I never really got the full on.
That's really something.
So anyways, they end up moving. Well, and of course, they faced a lot of opposition back then to their marriage. My mom's parents were like, forget it. It's a terrible idea. If you guys ever have kids, what's going to happen? They won't be accepted by the Jamaicans. They won't be accepted by the Hungarians.
Yeah.
Now, and on this call, I need to get into, race, religion, success, beliefs, everything, family,
I love it.
Like all that stuff. But anyways, with that, they said it's a no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So anyways, my dad left London, and he went to New York City.
Wow.
And he decided he wanted to be a dental technician.
Okay.
So he wanted to make crowns and bridges and dentures and stuff. And it's an interesting story because he was waiting for my mom to come over, either to meet him in New York or in Toronto. And New York was crazy because this is the mid 60s. And the race riots were going wild and stuff like that. So this is an interesting story. My dad, he ended up getting someone to sponsor him and offered to pay for him to go to dental technician school.
What?
Yeah, which is awesome. So it's like, God wanted him to be a dental technician.
No kidding.
So he lands there by himself, knows absolutely no one, has no money, and someone says, I'll pay for you to go to school.
Yeah.
So then he has to find a job, and he doesn't have the right type of visa. So he found a place at the Swing Line Stapler Company, the stapler company.
Right.
Same one today. So anyways, it was piecemeal back then, and piece work. So you'd basically assemble the staplers, put them all together, and put them in a box, assemble, because it wasn't highly automated back then. So he used to go to school between 8 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the afternoon. That was dental college. And then he would take the subway 2 hours. And then from 3 o'clock until midnight, that was his shift at the Swingline Stapler Company.
Amazing.
And then he'd take the subway 2 hours back to his place and then go to school. So anyways, and here's an interesting thing. When my dad was at the Swingline Stapler Company, it was the mid-'60s, and it was like all racist and all this kind of stuff. Guys there would actually try and beat him up just because he was black. No other reason, just because he was black.
Yep.
And funny thing is, there was an Italian guy that actually was the shop foreman, and he took a package tour to Montego Bay because they're just starting to open up Jamaica to tourism. So this Italian guy knew Jamaicans and liked Montego Bay and stuff, so he struck up conversation with my dad. And my dad was always like, "Hey, why are you beating me up? I'm from Jamaica. I don't care about your problems in the South. It wasn't me." All right?
Yeah.
So he just wanted to get on with it, right? So this Italian guy said to my dad, "Well, hey, if you're taking the subway 2 hours to get here, and you're taking it 2 hours back at midnight, you're back at 2 a.m, you're starting school, when are you going to study?" And my dad said, "Oh, no, I just won't sleep." And the guy said, "Look, you're really fast on the assembly line making the staplers. What you usually finish by 10 o'clock. I can't let you go home, but why don't you lock yourself in the bathroom for the last 2 hours between 10 o'clock and midnight? I'll keep those guys from beating you up and you can study that way."
Wow.
So he did that and he finished school. And here's the funniest, most interesting thing about that. My dad told me that story when I was 35 years old.
Really?
He never told me that story before that. And here's the funniest part about that story. The moral of the story was, so he tells me all this story, which is a way better story than that Will Smith, Pursuit of Happiness one. They should make a movie of his of life. It's a better story.
It is.
So anyways, the moral of the story, after he tells me that, when I'm 35 years old, he says, "So, sometimes it's really hard to find a good job you like that's convenient." I'm like, what? This isn't about racism or sacrifice or child.
Oh my God.
Sometimes it's hard to find a good job that's convenient.
No,
yeah, Dad, I was going that way. He would have been
insane.
on Time magazine if it happened today.
Oh my gosh, that's an incredible story.
So my dad's motivation was interesting because he wanted to make it and he wanted to be successful and, goals and just whatever it took.
Yeah.
So he ends up deciding in the smart way. He was mobile enough to say Jamaica's not where it's at.
Yeah.
He went to London, England. That wasn't happening for him. Then he went to New York, right?
Yeah.
And then he said, "This place is crazy," because he wanted to be successful. He said, "I will never be able to be successful here with the state of racism." So he said, "I should go to Toronto because Canada is the land of opportunity."
Okay.
But he had a plan, though. My dad really wanted to get a Rolls Royce.
Really?
He was like, "I really want to get a Rolls Royce," because back then, the 60s, right? Everyone was all into that. But my dad was a pretty smart guy. He said, "No one's going to let a black man drive a Rolls Royce around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a chauffeur's hat. When I'm driving it, I'm going to put the hat on and drive my car so no one will bug me. And I can still drive my Rolls Royce." Anyways.
That's awesome. He did get a Rolls Royce?
He didn't get a Rolls Royce. He got a bunch of Cadillacs and all that stuff, but that's another story. Anyways, he ended up moving up to Toronto. My mom met him there, and I was born in Toronto in 1970.
Oh my gosh.
So that's so that's how we got started.
Amazing. And what was your first vivid memory? Do you remember?
I have two memories that are very vivid, and they both happened when I was 2 or 3 years old. And one was actually being bit on the finger by a peacock.
What?
Yes. I was at a place called Marineland in Niagara Falls, and those peacocks strutting around this little cage, and I stuck my finger through, and this peacock bit my finger. It super hurt. And the other one, it was actually, I was either two years old or something like that. My brother and myself were both in the bathtub, and he actually bit me as well. So I have like a bite mark still on me because I guess it's teeth. Yeah. So that's anyways, you have to be careful of beautiful things and things that love you because they will bite you and it will hurt sometimes. Exactly. That's okay.
Those are good morals. So you have a brother? Any other siblings?
No, my dad, he got remarried a couple times. So my dad has different kids from different marriages. He's a very biblical kind of guy that way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
Well, Old Testament biblical, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So how many sisters, half sisters? Is it you and your brother originally from your?
Originally, yeah. My mom, it was my brother, and myself, and then.
Are you the oldest, or is he?
He's older. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what's his first name? Your brother?
His name is David, and he actually passed away just actually last year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'll get to that later on.
Yeah.
But anyways, so with that, I have 1, 2, 3, 6 brothers.
Yep.
all spread out with different
That's amazing.
family tree relations. Yes, so it's
Well,
all
God
over the
bless
place.
your dad, man.
Yes, he has blessed him many times.
For sure. Any favorite toys or games growing up when you were a kid?
I was always like a good tinkerer and kind of an inventor in my own mind.
Really?
So I would go in our crawl space in our basement and I would get like different construction things and make my own pretend submarine out of fiberglass.
That's
with
cool.
like a thing.
Fiberglass?
Out of fiberglass. So I was convinced I could take it into our backyard pool and float it, but that was just not smart.
How did you get a hold of fiberglass? How old are you?
I was 10 years old, but there was actually these panels that were made to go around the pool enclosure, and they were corrugated, and I bolted the panels together. I got some like old basketball hoops, and I made that the circular frame.
Oh, that's cool.
If I could have welded or used a 3D printer back in the good old days, it would have been awesome.
Absolutely.
But that was a cool thing.
So you weren't a TV kid, it sounds like. You just did your own thing.
Yes and no. When I was 12 years old, because of TV, I found it exactly what I wanted to be when I grow up.
What was that?
Magnum PI.
Come on.
Well, I mean, like, hey, if you can choose anything and you're really making up that crap anyways, it's like, I want that. I want to be that guy. I want a waterfront house, helicopters laying at my house.
Have all
super
this
cool
now,
car.
man.
Well, because I didn't listen to my guidance counselors. They're like, well, that's just made up. And saying I want to be an astronaut doctor is not.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the good thing about deciding you want to be like Iron Man or Magnum PI or something, you know what it is? You don't need anyone's permission to actually be that.
Yes.
You want to be in the NFL? Oh, no, you don't qualify. Oh, you want to be a doctor? No, you're not smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want to be this? No, if you make your own rules, you can win because you just change your rules to make you win.
That's so true. Why is it that society does that? It's crazy. I love that story, Rudy, when they told him you're never going to play football, and there he is. He actually played a couple minutes, but hey, no one can take that away from him.
Hate it. Yeah.
That's crazy. Any secret place or favorite sports or stuff growing up?
Yeah, I was always a bit of a loner. So sports, I wasn't really a team sports kind of guy. And it's funny because I'm still not a team sports, team player type guy. Although I'm quite sociable and I'll be around people a lot. And, I don't mind being the captain because I'm a control freak. Exactly. I like being the conference leader or the person that's the boss. I mean, one of the businesses we have 30 people working for us. I'm cool with that. But I want to be part of the team. I know it sounds terrible, but it's just if you know your personality type. When I was 12, I went to a garage sale and I found a pair of downhill skis.
Wow.
So I bought those skis and I got a book. I know it sounds like I was like this bizarre Karate Kid type character. And I taught myself to ski from a book.
Wow.
When I was 13, we moved into my dad's step up Jefferson moving on up house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was a huge hill beside that house, and in Toronto it would snow all the time. So I would actually go skiing down that hill beside my house. And I remember I got a gigantic door, from renovating the house, and I set it up across a couple 2x4s, and I made this wicked jump at the bottom of this hill.
Right.
So I would just all winter long be skiing down that hill, climbing up there, skiing down, climbing up, skiing down. Yeah.
Did you ever go to a real ski hill, or was that it?
I did. I started going to real ski hills, and I got super into it when I was 16 years old. I came out here to Vancouver, and I visited my cousin. I got to go skiing at Whistler, and I said, "That's it. I'm moving here."
So you were 16 when you decided that?
Yeah. I said, if I'm allowed to live anywhere in this country, why wouldn't I live here?
That's crazy good.
It's the best place to be.
I love it. I agree. Yeah. It's funny. Once Toronto people come out here and really experience, like if they come out here for business, whatever, it's pretty here. But if they come out and experience this place, they usually don't go back.
Oh, why would you? Yeah.
I don't know. What kind of school did you go to? Like, were you a good student or?
Well, I did the IQ tests early on, and they said I have this high IQ, right?
Okay.
And which is always nice to say. But the problem with that is if they test you and think you're smart, then they expect you to do well on all the tests and do all the homework and all the stuff. And they say stuff like, oh, the reason that you're acting out is because you're not being challenged enough. It's like, well, that's the stupidest thing ever. What if you just hate it? Is the reason people hate prison is because it's not hard enough? Yeah. What if you just hate school because you don't like people telling you what to do, right?
Yeah.
So from grade 6 until grade 12, I switched. I had a lot of behavioral problems between grade 1 and grade 5, acting out, just like, not wanting to go with the flow and stuff. And then from grade 6 to grade 12, I switched schools every single year, not because we moved, just because I was going to different school. I got, suspended from school. I got expelled from another private school. And then finally in grade 12, I decided this is stupid. So I actually dropped out of school, not to be a high school dropout, but I actually started on my private pilot's license.
Nice.
When I was 16, I went to ground school and I started flying planes at the Toronto Island Airport, which is it's called Billy Bishop Airport now.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be a pilot. So I started doing that, and I finished my school by correspondence. And then my dad heard about Trinity Western University out here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And he was doing well financially, and he was connected to a bunch of people. He said, listen, if you go to that school, I'll pay for it. I'm like, done. It's my ticket to the West Coast. We'll see you later, everyone.
Wow.
Which is good because, Yeah, you
came out here and you went to Trinity, and that's where you got your business degree, yeah?
Yeah, and met my wife, yeah.
That's where you met Val, was at university.
Yeah, you got it.
Cool. How'd you meet?
It was funny because I met my wife when she was actually 17 years old. And she was a bit of an overachiever, so she got to start university at 17.
Nice.
And we were in the university business department. She's from Nova Scotia, and she was talking to a couple of people there saying how she was flying back for Christmas and she was going to fly through Toronto. And I overheard the conversation. She said she had like a 6-hour stopover or 8-hour stopover in Toronto. She was taking a red-eye flight. And I said, hey, I overheard, and I said, I'm from Toronto. If you want, you got 8 hours. I can show you around the city. And she said, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. I said, what day are you coming in? This time. This is pre-internet, pre-Facebook, pre-texting, pre-any kind of communication.
I'm realizing that, yeah.
So, when you said, oh, I'll catch up with you, that stuff never happened, because how would you? How would you coordinate that?
Yeah.
But it was also pre-9/11, so there wasn't massive airport security.
That's true.
Right? So anyways, I said and this is in the middle of December, Christmas break over university, right? So I said to my mom, I said, okay, this girl is coming into Toronto to stop over for 8 hours. I said I'd show her around. I was like an acquaintance. I didn't really know her at all, right? Yeah. So I said, wake me up at 4 a.m, because it'll take me 2 hours to drive to the airport. We lived on the opposite side of the city. So she wakes me up at 4 a.m. I fall back asleep. At 6 a.m, I wake up and I'm like, crap, I said I'd go. So anyways, I get up, I burn it out at the airport. I get there 2 hours later at 8 a.m. I'm running through the airport because it was pre-9/11. There was no security stuff. You go anywhere you wanted. Remember, you go up to the baggage carousel, you go up to the gate and wave. People go into the plane, see the planes. The good old days, right? So anyways, I ran up and I saw her sleeping on a bench.
Oh my!
Because she was sleeping. Like, there was nothing to do in the airport back then, right? So I went over and I woke her up and went, hey, it's me. And she was so embarrassed and shocked that I actually showed up.
Really?
She was like,
you're gonna show up.
Oh, no, of course not. Like, some guys like, oh, yeah, I can show you around. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? So I showed up, I drove around downtown, went and had breakfast and stuff like that. And I took her back and she won the flight. We didn't start dating until 3 years later than that.
Yeah.
But that's how I met her, when she was 17. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's when you actually started dating, after the showing you around? You showed her around?
No, it was 3 years after that that initial airport sneak attack.
Oh, so you're just friends for 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, my wife, I proposed to her at 17. We had to wait 3 years to get married because her parents were, no, you're not married. No.
Yeah.
That's the way it was back then.
Yeah,
really
I remember.
World.
Yeah.
So did you have anything at school that you enjoyed at all? I know you quit early, but was there anything that really piqued your interest?
I like history. I always liked business. I started a few different business ventures when I was in school that were not successful ventures. My favorite one was an unlicensed sandwich stand called La Poche. It was pita bread that you heat up all the stuff. You wrap up pita bread and put cheese and all the stuff in there, wrap in tinfoil, and you'd iron it with an actual hot iron.
So
I read about it in Reader's Digest. So I thought, French for the pocket, La Poche. So I built this stand. I got a trailer. I took it downtown when I was 16. I set up on Yonge Street. No permits, nothing, right? Yeah. And then I asked the merchant on Yonge Street, hey, man, can I plug this into your extension thing? And he's like, oh, okay. That was highly illegal. So anyways, it was too long to make these things. So I decided, then I went to the other hot spot. I went to the base of the CN Tower, and I switched to hot dogs. So I unlicensed, unregulated, sold hot dogs at the bottom of the CN Tower for the whole summer.
And you never got caught?
I never got caught because I only worked 2 hours a day.
That's cool.
I figured out there was a Navy training program, and they'd get young cadets that were between 16 and 18 years old, and a couple of my friends were in that. One day, I was down at the base of the CN Tower. They would do their marching exercises downtown.
Wow.
And I saw these guys march up, and they all came up and bought hot dogs. I said, what are you guys doing? They're like, we're in a 6-week Navy training program, and we march this route every day. And I'm like, oh, between what hours? So I would show up at, right before, get the hot dogs ready, sell them, and then just split. So it was my 2-hour a day work day.
Oh my gosh. So you haven't changed, Sam. You've been the same since you were 16 years old.
Well, I'm less of a lawbreaker now.
Yeah, that's true.
In case this gets out to law enforcement agencies.
Yeah. No, we don't have that big of a listenership yet, but hey, you never know. This might explode.
Yeah.
I was just thinking as you were talking about, is there anyone that mentored you is this all stuff that you created on your own, or did you have anyone that you looked up to that gave you great ideas for business?
Well, I always saw my dad's example of him starting a business and doing stuff. My dad was constantly hearing, no, you can't, from all different sides.
Really?
Yeah. And, it was funny because my dad's a very interesting guy. And with the kind of stuff in this current climate of, Black Lives Matter, and now it's Black History Month and all this stuff. It's funny because it's Black History Month now. Yeah. And the good thing about being me in Black History Month is I only have to volunteer for the first 2 weeks of the month. After that, off the hook.
That's right. You're only half.
Thank you, Mom. My kids, only 1 week.
That's lucky.
Right. Those lucky. Anyways, but I did look up to my dad, and he was always being told, no, you can't. It's not going to work. So I saw his thing, and he just kept on going because he just didn't care. But the funny thing with my dad, in Steve Chandler language of being a victim, my dad is the most unvictim person when it comes to the whole race thing.
Wow.
And my dad's experienced actual racism, not like, oh, I feel like the reason I'm not successful is because it must be because of the reason that I'm not a coach in the NHL must be because I'm Black. Well, it also could have something to do with the fact that you've never played hockey. Yeah, exactly. So let's go and equalize stuff that can't be equalized. So it's ridiculous. That's
fascinating. How did he respond to racism? He experienced it. Do you remember or recall any time like how he actually responded to it or talked to you about it?
I'll tell you how he actually responded to it.
Sure.
My dad, and I'm going to say some words that only I'm allowed to say because Black people are allowed to say those words.
Yeah.
You know them.
N-word.
Yeah, the N-word. No, technically, I guess I can only say half it, so I can say grr. Grr. So anyways, so my dad's walking down the street in Toronto in the 60s, right after he got there. And this is after leaving racist New York. Right?
This is the 60s, so yeah.
60s, yeah. So anyways, he's walking down the street, and some drunk guy comes up to him, and he's walking down the street, and this drunk guy jumps in his face and says, hey, nigger boy. And I know you don't. Yes, you don't have to edit that out because I said it. Just make sure my lips the ones doing. So anyways, so he got in my dad's face, was just trying to bug him. So my dad was walking by some landscaped stuff down there, and there was some landscaping and flower beds and stuff, and there was some rocks in there. So some little rocks in the landscaping things, right?
Yeah.
So my dad says to the guy, he just looks him in the face, and he says, I need you to get out of my way right now, or I'm going to pick up that rock and use it to crack your skull.
He just says a matter of fact. And
the guy gets super quiet and just walks out of the way. Wow. I was in Spain when my dad was in his George Jefferson moving on up days, right? Yep. We were in Spain. And the funny thing is, people talk about, the States is racist and Canada's racist. No, it's not. Two of the most racist countries in the world are actually Spain and Japan. And you will never know that because you just won't. Yeah. In Japan, they have signs there that say Japanese only, no foreigners, in Japanese.
Amazing.
Yeah, and in Spain has the lowest immigration rate of any European country because they don't want to take foreigners in. Now, this is funny because my dad's accountant was Spanish, and he's a longtime family friend. He's one of my best friends now, and I've been to his place in Spain to visit him and stuff, and because he has a place in Toronto and a place in Spain. He's never had kids, so I'm like the kid he never had. That's cool. But we were in Spain in the 1980s, and I remember it's just when Jaws, I think it was Jaws 2 came out. So we were watching. Anyways, but we were at a fancy high-end restaurant there, and one of the waiters, we're sitting in this fancy restaurant, all nicely done up, all carpeted and stuff, and one of the waiters made a comment to the other waiter about my dad, and you don't have to speak Spanish to know someone's making some racist remark. Really, you can pretty much figure it out. So anyways, the guy comes and delivers the soup and says, oh, blah, 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 about my dad, right? So my dad looks at the guy, picks up the soup, and the carpet's right there. He picks up the soup and he pours the bowl of soup on the carpet and he throws the thing back up and he looks at the guy. I'm there. I'm watching this going,
wow.
So basically,
That's
that's how my dad dealt with racism. He didn't really care. And it wasn't, and his big thing was, well, it's not my problem. If these guys want to do it, it's like, bring it on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And the thing is, like, even the whole thing, like the responsibility to equalize stuff. My dad started his business in 1973. One black person said to him, well, how many black people are you going to hire to work in your business? And my dad said, I'm not going to hire based on color. I'm going to hire based on skill. So I have no idea. Wow. What a unique concept.
Yeah, really.
So my dad kind of gets it. And I said, Dad, like, what do you think of all this Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff going on? My dad said, I think it's a lot of young people. They just don't want to put in the effort. And they want to blame everything that they don't have on the system, not on their own personal accountability and responsibility.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's true.
That's so true. It is true.
Yeah. It is.
Have you experienced any racism at all, being off color, white, or is it? Fine?
I don't really think I have. There's been a couple times when I think, some ignorant people, service-wise and stuff, they I did experience one time in Spain. They're racist Spain over there. Again. Yeah, again. I was in the Ritz-Carlton in Spain. And we weren't staying in a hotel. I walked in to take a look. We got kicked out of the Ritz-Carlton. I couldn't prove what it was, and I didn't really care, right?
Yeah.
But, I can't say, there's overt times. There's people I think have done or said some things that have been ignorant, I believe. I've never used it as an excuse. I've traveled all across the U.S. I've had a U.S. visa for 10 years when I did my traveling seminars. And we stayed in some very high-end hotels. I've stayed in the Waldorf Astoria, stayed in lots of Ritz-Carlton, stayed in the penthouse suite of like places when we do our big events. Yeah. And I've never experienced racism in the United States.
Yeah.
And I know that'll be a shock to readers, like, it's so unjust and unfair. No, I disagree. I think that people want to go looking for stuff. And it's just kind of like, if some ladies want to say, well, everything must be sexist, it's like, it's not always sexist. It's not always about that. Sometimes, like, can a cigar just be a cigar, like Freud said? Yeah. Like, it's not always about, it's because of this and this. It's like, well, no, it's like you didn't get the job. Sorry. It has nothing to do with, if Obama can be the president 2 times in a row. A friend of mine, after Obama won, he sent me a card and it said, Barack Obama, a symbolic victory for half black people everywhere. Right? I'm like, yes, my time has come.
Yes, my brother.
Yeah. So, it's a good time to be half black. Right. But I will fight people that say, it's not like that and stuff. Because we live in this interesting time in history when non-colored people try and tell colored people what they're supposed to call themselves. You can't call yourself Indian. You have to call yourself South Asian. It's like, what? Yeah. Are you from the Philippines? Like, it's confusing. My neighbor's Italian. I can say he's Italian. Yeah. I don't have to say he's Northern Central European. I don't want to use the I word after all. It's like we've gotten pretty stupid these days.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine this morning. Actually, he's a sales guy and he's doing some work with the Indigenous people here in BC. So he called them and he says, hey, I don't know how to refer to you as, Indigenous, or he goes, oh no, we like to be referred to as a band, like this band or that band. And so he says, okay. And it was great. But then when he talked to his colleague, they don't see themselves as bands over in the East. You want to say Indigenous. So I always think, ask them. Ask the person, how do you want me to refer to you as? Why try and guess or try and control them? It's crazy.
I liked life when it was less complicated. Mm-hmm. Anyways, before I go on that, let's move on.
Yes. So you met Val, and then 3 years later, how did you propose?
It's funny because Val is always upset that I did the worst non-proposal of history.
Gotta tell me about that.
Oh no. It was the summer right before we were going to start the business and stuff like that. We'd actually started up the business, and the way we started, we were totally broke from my previous business failures. We got $50 of photocopied flyers. And we
Wow.
went to Office Depot. And I remember they were running a special in 1995, 5 cents a copy, right? So we got 1,000 copies, 50 bucks worth is 1,000 copies. We printed them 3 up on a page, so we cut them into 3 sections. So we had 3,000 flyers. We walked out to houses. We dropped them on doorsteps. We rented rooms in the community center.
Yeah.
Like we rented a table there, for 50 bucks. Let's set up a table and tell people to come to the registration. And we signed up 7 students, and they each gave us a $20 registration fee. So we made 70 bucks, woo, and registered some students. This is pre-internet, and pre-everyone having a cell phone and stuff, right? So that's how we had to do it, because we didn't have a commercial building. Then we rented rooms in a local elementary school to get the business going. So when that was all going, now here's the funny thing with Val. When I started dating Val, I knew I was going to marry Val.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't the first person I'd ever dated. I'd dated other girls before. Remember, I'd met her when she was 17. I dated a few different girls in the meantime. And then I didn't want to screw stuff up. So those were like the test cases, right? Then finally, when I was, 21, I started dating Val. And I knew it. I knew I was going to marry her. So anyways, it was the summer. And I said, we should just get married like now. It just makes the most sense. And she said, yeah, okay, I think we should do that. And I said, okay, well, let's start planning. Let's do this. And it is August. Let's just try and get everything done. Let's do September 30th. She said, okay, it sounds good. So we planned the entire wedding. This is pre-internet in like 6 weeks, right?
So you still weren't engaged at this time?
What's that?
You still weren't officially engaged?
No, we didn't have money for rings. So it's broke, right? And it's funny because everyone's like, oh, Val must be pregnant. It's like, no, she wasn't pregnant. We just thought, if we're going to get married, why wait? And it's not like we want a big kind of thing. Yeah. Now, at the time, I had another business that I was kind of unraveling, because the 5 businesses that failed, they didn't fail like on the same day. So I had bits and pieces still going. That business was doing prepaid long distance phone cards when those used to exist.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was pretty enterprising, because I actually went to the company that had the long distance time. We printed our own plastic cards. And the way it would work is you'd give someone a $20 card or a $30 or a $50 card, and they would make phone calls. Those cards would expire after 6 months. But we would only pay for the amount of long distance time they used on that card.
Oh, cool.
So anyways, we were in one of those trading networks. Remember the barter networks that you could trade into? Yeah. So we were in one of those with my company doing the phone cards. So I had $100 cards made up. And there was a local pizza company that was on this trading exchange, and they had 20-something franchises that they all want to use because people were buying pizza for trade dollars. How could they use their trade dollars up? They bought like 20-something phone cards off me for $100 each. They handed them out to all their franchisees. Most of them, they made one phone call ever, or they just never used them at all. Wow. Right? And they expired after like 6 months. So the $2,000 plus worth of long distance stuff probably cost me like $100 maybe. But I took that $2,000 of traded stuff, and I went to a company that was a boat rental company, because the yacht rental companies, they're always using unused capacity, right? Because if it's sitting in the harbor, it makes them no money. So they'd rather get something in trade rather than nothing. So we traded for the boat. We found a caterer that would take some trade stuff. We traded for that. So we had like a wedding that looked like we were actually pretty successful, even though we're totally broke, because of the trading and the enterprising stuff around there.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a 6-week wedding that we planned. It was fast. And, at the time I didn't actually even have money for engagement rings. So I had to get the wedding rings, which I still have today. And what I did, there was a friend of mine that he had a furnace cleaning business, and he would basically put people on the phones, and he'd say, hey, you'd phone them up and you'd ask if they want their furnace cleaned, you coordinate it, and you would pay them a certain commission. I said, as stupid as this sounds, I'm better face to face than I am on the phone. Yeah. And I'd sold encyclopedias door to door going through university and made good money. Yeah. Like I would make $8,000-9,000 over the summer selling door to door, which is like the worst job ever. But I said, can I go sell furnace cleaning and you'd pay me a commission? And he said, yeah, okay, sure, if you want. So I went out for 2 days. I knocked on some doors, arranged to get the furnaces cleaned. He paid me the commission. That's how I bought these rings.
Oh, nice.
And then Val got her real expensive 3-carat diamond ring like 13 years later. So
that's great.
So we do everything backwards here, even like with our house, right? We bought a commercial building before we bought a house.
Yeah.
Which makes we're like in the backwards land kind of thing. Oh, well, that's what we do.
So when did you start having kids? That must have been pretty quick.
No, it wasn't actually. you
Wait, you
know,
got married in 95. Was that
in
right?
95. That's right. So we got
Yeah.
married in 95 and we had our first child in 2002.
Wow.
So people like, we kind of messed them up. They're like, whoa, like, you must be having, it's like, no, it's not that. We just wanted to get married. We wanted to get married. We wanted to build the business first. And then we were married for 7 years before we had kids.
Yeah, we were married 5 years before we had kids, and I really love that. I think
Oh, it's
everyone
great.
should do that. It's a great idea just to wait and
Yeah.
bond. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And for us, it was so business focused. We were building the business together.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have that time.
So there was some real trepidation around that first business. Tell me about the no chicken in bed story.
Yeah, well, it's funny because in one of my businesses, I borrowed a bunch of money,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I've always had a way of asking gutsy kind of things. Like I've asked people. There was a guy I barely knew, and he had sold me a piece of real estate once, and I called him up and I said, "Hey, I need a bit of help here," and he said, "Yeah, what do you need?" I said, "I need to borrow like $500,000."
Oh my God.
And you know what he said? Okay.
Really?
So I have this history of asking bizarre things and people saying, okay. So when I was
No collateral, nothing. Just
no, nothing. Yeah. When I was 22, 23 years old, a friend of mine, his dad had a leasing company. He was very wealthy in Toronto.
yeah.
And I needed money to buy some equipment. So anyways, I flew over to Toronto to see him, and he said, "How's everything going?" I said, "Really good." He had offered me a job before, but I didn't want to work for him because I didn't really want a job. Like I've had one real job in my life, which I got fired from. Me and jobs, it's just annoying for both of us. Like it's not a good idea. So anyways, I said, "Well, stuff's going good, but I need $15,000." And this friend's dad said to me, he said, "So you want me to give you $15,000 right now? Like you want me to give you $15,000 in cash, like as we're sitting here?" And I said, "Well, no, probably a check, actually." He said, "Oh, I can't believe you." I said, "Okay, listen, I'm going to give you this money, but I'll tell you what. You got 6 months to pay it back to me, no interest. After that, if you can't pay it back, there's going to be interest, and I'm telling you, you're not going to like it.
Wow.
You still want the money?" I said, "Sure." So anyways, I paid about half it back after 6 months. And, I had this debt that was still looming and looming and looming. I was so worried about that. And then Val just said, "Look, you can't be such a chicken about that," because I was like losing sleep over that.
Yeah,
it was just crazy.
You gave your word, and it's like, I can't do this.
Yeah. So anyways, that was the big thing. Because when we started our businesses, we just had lots of debt from trailing failed attempts, right?
Yep. Yep. So that's, I remember when you told me that story, Val said, she told you to go sleep on the couch. No chickens allowed in the bed.
Yeah, no chickens allowed in the bed because I was just like lying awake and just tossing, how are we going to pay back this money? How much? Yeah, no chickens.
Don't you just love her more for that? I mean, that's such an incredible thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
What a sport that is, man.
Well, sometimes you need someone to tell you to snap out of it. And what's your problem? I remember one time I was lamenting to a friend and I was worried about this and worried about that and stuff. And he said the funniest thing to me. He said, "What's your problem, man? You shouldn't be worried about this." And I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "You're Sam Beckford." I'm like, wait a second, I am. I don't know what that meant, but I was like, wait a second, if this guy thinks I'm like some kind of like, then I must be like some kind. So it's like, when you stop believing that you can do stuff, but other people, they just still bought into the illusion. So if you think of success in this world and belief in all kinds of things, a lot of faith and trust in other people, like other people don't make themselves famous. You make them famous by believing they're famous. Like if they're a celebrity from another country, I remember I was at the Sheraton Hotel and they had these huge barriers, like, the construction site, the big mesh kind of cages they put around there.
Yeah.
And I remember they had all these huge barriers put around there. And I was going there to go to the brunch, right? And mass amounts of things. And I was like, what's going on here? There must be something crazy, right? So I walk into the hotel, right? And I say, what's going on, right? And they said, well, one of the biggest pop stars from India is actually staying in the hotel, right? And I said, oh, okay, I see. So I kind of looked back out in the area around the hotel and I saw that thing, the big mesh security thing. Way off to the side, I saw two girls. One was holding flowers and another was holding a sign that says, "We love you," whatever your name is, right? Yeah. And I was like, this is very interesting. because maybe in India, this is what they have to do because this guy would be mobbed. But here, nobody knows and nobody cares. So the only thing that makes him famous is the fact that we believe he's famous. Because to me, it's like I could have bumped into the lobby. It's like, hey, man, like, sorry, hold the elevator, man. Wait up. So it's kind of funny with that. And positioning and belief and the amount of authority we give to people is very interesting. And this is a whole other psychology thing. That's a different conversation, right?
Yeah, yeah. What was it like becoming a dad? Isabella was your first, yeah?
Yeah, it was really scary, to be honest. I didn't want to screw it up. And I still remember we were in the hospital, and Isabella was a C-section. And the doctor came in, and we were recovering and stuff like that. And this is this is 2002. And if you remember, The Apprentice was hot on TV at that time. And it starred an actor. I can't remember the actor who was the boss in that show, The Apprentice. I can't remember his name. Anyways, sorry, I just don't want to get sued. It'll come to me sometime. Hang on, history will rewrite it as a different person's name eventually, so I'll be exonerated for liking a show that had you-know-who firing people. So anyways, we're watching the show, and we actually got the TV in the hospital, and Isabella was just born, and we're sitting there. Isabella's like on Val's, in the bed with her. She's holding Isabella, and I'm there. We're both watching The Apprentice, and I remember the doctor that came in and did the C-section. He comes in and he gives us crap. He's like, this is such a precious time to be with your newborn baby, and I can't believe you're wasting it and squandering it by watching this on TV instead of cherishing every moment.
Wow.
Now, here's the funny thing. The moral of the story was supposed to be, well, this guy is right. And it's these moments in life that mean so much because we don't get this. And anyways, I sat there and I didn't say anything and stuff. And when he left, I didn't silently turn off the TV and say, he's right. I was like, man, I'm trying not to lose my mind. Do you know how freaked out I am right now? I need to watch the show to get out of the reality of, oh crap, like this is a huge responsibility for me.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So instead of judging me, like, oh, like I can't. It's like, look, man, I need this right now. Okay, I need just a break from like how intense this is right now, because this is freaking me out. So it was a huge responsibility for me. And I know a lot of parents, they think, oh, it's so great and it's fun, but I just said, no, this is massive. So it was a bit terrifying for me at first.
Wow, I really identify with that. It freaked me out too. My son was born in '95, and it just terrorized me. I think it took me at least a year just to kind of get okay. I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah,
I had good days and mostly rough days, but yeah, I'm the worrier like you in a relationship.
Yeah, it's awesome. Tough. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to get to the point where like, hey, I'm going to be fine?
I'd say probably like, 2019 or early 2020, probably. Then I started to see it's not so bad. And it's
she
a big
now? She's like, how old is she?
Yeah, our daughter's 18 now. The thing is, we've homeschooled our kids all the way through. We had them in a regular private school for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then after that, they said, well, your daughter has to repeat kindergarten. And she's smart. It's not like she really had to. It sounds like the good insults from my era. You're so dumb, you failed kindergarten. But then we said, well, this is dumb. Why don't we just try homeschooling for 1 year? If we screw it up, big deal. We'll say you're right. And then we stick her in grade 1. Maybe she'll know how to read, right?
Right.
We did that and put her into to the homeschool thing. And then we tried going back to the private school for 2 weeks after that. It was a disaster. And I said, this is crazy. We have to just do this. So, we're not like the late homeschoolers. When you say you homeschool now, it's like, well, duh, everyone does. Yeah. But we've been doing it, for 12 years, solid.
Amazing.
And it's a big responsibility because you're worried about, am I putting gaps in my kids' education? The answer is no. I've talked to high school graduates. You're not gapping anything. I see the stuff they're teaching them and not teaching them. Like, why don't they tell you this?
Yeah, I would definitely
bizarre.
do it today if I had to redo it over again, for sure.
And with the internet, it's so much easier too, right?
Oh, yeah. They have great programs too for that. I have friends that have been homeschooling, and it's interesting. And then so Isabel and then Benjamin came along like 3 years later, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a whirlwind time, I mean, we were in the middle of building a business. I was doing seminars. We're doing this real estate stuff. It was pretty stressful, a lot of running. And sometimes I look back at that guy and I say, who was that guy that was taking all his risks and doing all that crazy stuff? Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Would I do it again? And I still remember this thing about golfers, that golf is a game of practice. It's not a game of strength and speed. It's a game of practice.
Right.
So logic would say that in the PGA tours, older golfers should be the best at the game because they have 30, 40, 50 years of practice, and these young guys don't, right? But the funny thing is they've showed that in golf, younger golfers actually do better than older golfers in the PGA Tour. And that's not because they have more practice, because the muscles and all that stuff. I mean, even look at Tiger. Tiger was way better when he was younger than when he was older.
Yeah.
And they figured out why. Older golfers don't take chances because they've seen what can go wrong. I remember I was playing once and there was a sand trap here and the wind was blowing just like this and that happened, and I'm going to play it safe. Younger golfers don't have the experience to know what can go wrong, so they just do it. They see the thing and they do it, and a lot of times, guess what? It works.
Amazing.
So the reason that you look at some of the biggest success stories in history, you look at Tesla, you look at the Virgin guys, you look at Amazon, you look at stuff. These guys were young golfer attitude guys. They didn't have all of the experience of what won't work, or we tried this, or a team said it can't be this and this and this and this. They just do it because it's like, well, they don't know that it's not supposed to work.
Yeah, at some point they became resigned and cynical.
Yeah. Or I mean, it's just kind of like when you talk to people about business that are experienced.
Yeah.
And I always hate those dumb shows. Like, they have the Dragon's Den shows and Shark's Tanks. And it's like, okay, because you know how to run a software company, you know everything about lipstick and baby food. Okay, sure. I hate those ones. Yeah. And, I tell people a lot of times when they ask my business advice, the first question I usually ask is, well, how's it working? Because I'll make the assumption that, oh, well, I know better than you because I know business. It's like, well, I don't know everything. If you would have asked me to invest in Instagram, I would have said to you, out of your mind, it's the stupidest idea ever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a fad. That's stupid. Oh, really? 1 billion users, I see. So a lot of times we just don't know. So we make these assumptions because we're experienced. And so many people, expert-wise, just get it wrong because of our experience. Our experience does not always help us.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So, and then your third child, Alexander, 2011.
Yes.
So that's quite a spread there. Right?
It is a spread.
Yeah.
And, it was good because he was kind of like my casual child that I could actually, it was an easy, like everything was kind of slowing down a bit. And I was at the stage where I just don't really care. I'm not going to try this and try that. So I got to really relax. And he was kind of my kid that I got to do all the stuff.
Yeah.
That, I didn't do with the other kids, not because I was too busy, but I kind of had the experience of, okay, instead of trying to make everything perfect, I'm going to relax and just make it work. Like he's the one kid that I actually got to ride his bike. Now, I know it sounds like ridiculous, but in the early days, they had these things called, what were those camps called? There were biking camps for kids. You can send your kids to camp, and they would actually teach your kids to ride a bike. Pedal heads.
I've never heard of that. That's cool.
Pedal heads. Well, it is cool, but when you think of it, that's a dad job. But they were all the trend. It's like, oh, our kids should go to pedal heads. They'll teach them this and be safe. And on the surface, it makes sense. But I was like, wait a second. I'm going to teach my kid to ride a bike, and if he wipes out, that's okay. Because we got into this culture of we don't want our kids to hurt themselves or, have any kind of pain, or we don't want them to, oh no, eat some food that's not organic.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to them? So, that was a real downside of, I'd say, the 2000s, the 2000 to 2010 period, where it's just over like, oh, our kids are so precious. And that's when the baby on board movement started emerging, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like you can't do this to my precious angel. It's like, okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's true though. You're better with your third kid. It's amazing. Like even with me, my youngest, it's like, I'm just so chill now. It's like, it's, I wish I was the same way parenting the third as I was with the first. I mean, but whatever, it is what it is.
Oh, it's funny because there's a card in the greeting cards thing for congratulations to a baby.
Yeah.
And Val's favorite card is, well, she has two favorite things with babies. The first one is the Dummies book series, right?
Yeah.
And it's a book called Baby Names for Dummies. It's like, hey, that's mean. Give the kid a chance.
Punctuation matters.
And the other one is this card that says, your first baby, first in your life, first in your heart. I'm like, thanks. What does the card for your second baby say? Or the third baby? It's like, what dork at Hallmark approved that? Yeah. You're number 3, kiddo.
And you will always be number 3.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Try harder. It's funny. My daughter always says, which one of us is your favorites? And I'm generally an amateur to bad parent. So I say, well, different ones of you are my favorites for different things. You're my favorite one to do this with. You're my favorite one to do that with. But the truth is, it's generally always changing. So try harder.
That's great.
Tomorrow could be your day.
I'm going to use that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to give them, I don't have favorites. Hey, the one thing I know about reading the Bible, that's a lie. Everyone's got favorites.
Yeah. And they do change, don't they? It's amazing.
Yes.
So I didn't want to skip over something. I mean, you had a point in your life where you had to reinvent yourself, and that was the Save on Foods incident. So that happened in business number 6, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my dad was very financially successful in his businesses and, ended up getting his Cadillacs and mink coats when those were a thing. And, a cool house and stuff like this Jefferson stage. But I never actually got a lot of money from my dad to do the businesses. I wanted to do it on my own. Yeah. And he didn't actually lend me or give me any money. And I just wanted to try and make it work.
Everyone but him.
What's that?
You asked everyone but him.
I did. It's true. I never actually said, hey, I'm doing this business. Can I have some money? I just never did. I just wanted to do it on my own. It's weird. But so when the business was getting going, and also pride too. I didn't want to make it look like it. And I really had a big chip on my shoulder about the nepotism thing. So I'd see some kids and, they'd say, well, it's we in our business. It's like, hey man, the only we is genetic here. You haven't done anything. Yeah. So it really bugged me because when I was in this private university, I'd see a lot of kids that would just like be all like, uppity on the fact that it's their business. It's like, it's not your business. Yeah. Like you didn't build anything, right? You just showed up. Like, don't try and impress me with like you because you don't have what it takes, right? The old man does, right? Totally that, yeah. So with that, we went to the grocery store and we went to pay for groceries, and I used my debit card. And the first time I ran it didn't work, and the second time I ran the card, and the cashier said, "Oh, you want to try the card again?" And I said, "Yeah, no, there's a problem with the card. There's no money in the account, so the card's not going to work." Yeah, I can run it again. That out loud. Yeah, I just said, "I'm sorry." So we had to leave our groceries there and go.
Wow.
It was just highly embarrassing, of course. And Val was with me, right? Yeah. She was with me.
She was with you. Dang.
Of course. Yeah. And I said, this just sucks. This is never going to happen. And I'm not saying money makes you happy, because I've had lots of forays with, making lots of money and losing lots of money and having money. And thankfully I'm on the pendulum swing of lots.
That's great.
But it's, it's one of those things where money does not solve all your problems.
Yeah.
And large windfalls can create a lot more problems than they solve. And people don't realize that. I've talked to a couple lottery winners. Yeah. And it's not everything you think it's going to be. But I said, this is ridiculous. Just the control aspect and the feeling of, you can't, you won't. I just said, I'm not going to have this anymore. So it was a real motivator just to have that resolve.
Yeah. So that was
take control
right there.
Yeah. And, we really started hustling with our business and just doing whatever it took. We would basically work when we had the small dance studio business. We'd start answering the phones at 9 a.m. and work till 10 o'clock at night. Wow. And our big thing was, it was all about conversion and selling. Because I said, if we can actually be answering the phone, this is pre-internet, if we can answer the phone, we can convert every single person that wants to take lessons. What kind of business could be built? And, it's funny because a lot of people in my business program I graduated with, they would make fun of me. I remember there was a girl I dated, her mom bumped into us at the symphony. We went to the symphony one day and her mom was there, and her mom never really liked me much anyways, but that's okay. Yeah. And she was like one of these uppity, high rolling kind of society type people. And her husband was one of the youngest dentists in the history of Canada. And she said this snide remark to me. She said she heard my businesses were tanking and all that stuff. And she bumps into the symphony. We're dressed up nice and trying to look the part and stuff. Yeah. And Val's there with me. And she says, "So, Sam, what's putting food in your tables today or these days? Like your wife's piano teaching?" I'm like, "Wow, that's nice. Do you want to kick me in the balls? Because, why stop now?
Yeah.
Go for it." So people would think it's just a wussy sounding business. But, if I would have said to someone 30 years ago that two of the most successful businesses would be a hardware store and a coffee shop, they would have laughed you out of town. It's like, oh, ha. But you look at Home Depots and Starbucks or Tim Hortons. I mean, it's a universal service that everyone uses.
Yeah.
And the other good thing is when Starbucks and Tim Hortons came in, think of the competition and how the bar was set in coffee shop owners.
Crazy.
Remember the good old days when they used to have smoking inside the donut shop?
Oh, I remember that.
And every donut was smoked. It's like, it has a rich smoked face, it's a smoky flavor. And you'd sit there, and it was just like a grubby, nasty place to be. Mm-hmm. And, Tim Hortons, they didn't have to try that hard. Remember when hardware stores were just like these bizarre, disorganized, just all over the place?
Oh, yeah.
And customer service in a hardware store, when people say, "Oh, I don't like the service at Home Depot," I'm like, compared to what? What we used to have? Oh, yeah, because it was so awesome back then.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Buddy on the forklift, reading the paper, like, good luck, right?
Well, the only place we could go for coffee was the pantry. You'd have to actually go and you have to order something. Like you could just, sometimes you get if coffee was late at night, but, there was really nowhere to go. McDonald's, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, but back then, McDonald's coffee was crap, and they served those styrofoam cups, and it would burn your lap, so you get to sue them for a couple million, which was all right. But, well, it's true. And Howard Schultz in his book talks about the secret of Starbucks was actually something called the third place. Because he said, people have work, and they have home. Mm-hmm. The third place used to be the bar. Because that's where people would go. And in England, it still is. The pub is where people would hang out. Well, before those poor suckers are locked down. Yeah. But, so the third place, I mean, if you go to church once a week or a club sometimes. Yeah. But he said, the third place is a place you can go and socialize and hang out. And he noticed that people weren't drinking and they were getting healthier and they weren't hanging around in bars. So he said, what if we had a place that didn't have alcohol? It's a place where anyone could meet. And it was a time where young people, ladies, not the typical old men hanging out at the bar. It was a safe, neutral place where you could actually hang out. Plus, it had that infusion of feeling and upscale, and it would basically say something about you. Because let's face it, you're either a Tim Hortons person or a Starbucks person, right?
True.
So the people that want to basically pay that premium to say they're a Starbucks person, hey, why not? You can live the dream, right? You feel like you're buying more than coffee. You're buying atmosphere, attitude, personality, right? Yeah. You're buying your place in society.
So true.
Yeah. Because no one says, hey, you want to meet when we'll hang out at Subway? Like, you just don't. No.
Definitely. No, I don't even go there for lunch anymore. I get it delivered.
Yeah.
Everything's delivered now.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. So when did you start Success Strategies?
Well, it's a funny story. It was in 1995 we started the business, and we rented rooms in elementary school. Then we found a commercial building. The landlord said, "No, I don't want to rent this building to you. I think your business isn't going to work. Thanks." Then we found a small 600 square foot space. The landlord said, "Sure, I'll take a chance on you." We started expanding more and more and more. We added our dance program. Then we rented another small 700 square foot space, started location number 2, started expanding more and more. Then we found a commercial space in White Rock, about 40 minutes away, and that was a commercial condo. And we decided to buy the real estate instead of renting it. Wow. And we didn't own a house, and I wasn't sure if we could do this. And this is funny because we needed $50,000 the down payment.
Yeah.
And we had $5,000. Now, I remember we're driving down the highway, and I said, we got to buy this place. And Val said, there's a big problem. Like, we don't have $50,000. And I said, well, I have a good imagination. We're going to figure this out. So at the time, I thought, how can I get $50,000? How can I get $50,000? And I couldn't borrow money from people at that time. I went through that and lost money, and I paid them back, but it's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I just, and I thought, how can I do it? How can I do it? So I thought, wait a second. If I write a newsletter, and if I actually sell enough newsletter subscriptions, I don't have to write the newsletter until after, because that's how newsletters and magazines work, right? So I thought, we know enough about running a business. I should write a newsletter called Successful Studio Strategies. So we went and we got a Yellow Pages list of all the music and dance studios. And we sent them a letter that said, we have all these business ideas to make your business better.
Yeah.
And we sold 2 subscriptions, one for $119 and one for $199. So the silver one and the deluxe one. Right. Nice. And the deluxe one had a consulting certificate with me where you could send some stuff in or call me up or whatever. Right.
Nice.
So the funny thing is, we sent those out to the US, which has a different exchange rate than Canada, of course. And we did that mailing. We sold 363 subscriptions.
Wow.
There's about 20,000 music and dance studios. We sold 363 subscriptions. After we took our expenses out of that, guess how much that ended up being?
I don't know.
$50,000. So it was just like, it sounds like a made up story, but and I believe that God wanted us to do this.
That's
because,
totally
it was an interesting story. It sounds kind of like one of those folk stories, but it was real. And, after that, we did the newsletter for a bit, and I thought people would probably want to come and meet me in person.
Yeah.
So we rented a room in the Seattle Ramada Hotel, and a group of 15 people showed up and, paid $500 to see me in that room. And I remember I said to Val, oh crap. And this was like, we had an overhead projector and slides. Okay. This is old school. This is back in 2000. Right.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I said to Val, oh crap, what if I run out of things to say after the first half an hour?
Not a chance.
Yeah. And Val looked at me and said, but I still remember to this day, she looked at me and she said, you will never run out of things to say. I'm like,
God, I love your wife, dude.
Thank you. So yeah.
Never.
So anyways, we started that, and then we decided to go for broke. We had another seminar a year later, and then I decided to go big time. And I said, we're going to send out and try and have a big slam bam event. So we sent it out. We said, come on up to Vancouver, and we'll have this event. We'll show you how we built our studio up and how we did this and how we did this and how we did this. So we actually had 150 studios that showed up for this big event.
Amazing.
In the Sheraton Hotel. And I had a little trick up my sleeve because I said, we got to sell them on a monthly coaching program. But the coaching program, we're going to charge $150 a month for it. And what we're going to do, I said, if they stay in for 18 months, they can do a best, most improved studio contest. And whoever's voted most improved, we're going to give away a car. That's what I said. So I got a Volkswagen Beetle convertible. We took it and drove it into the room. We hid it behind some curtains.
Nice.
Right. And it was there the whole time at the 2-day event. And it was funny because I said to my staff that was working the seminar and handing out the papers and stuff, I said, look, guys, here's the deal. I need to tell people they should join this coaching thing. If 80% of the people in the room decide to do this, I'm going to give all you guys $1,000 as a bonus.
Nice.
And they were sorting the papers and stuff, and no one really said anything. And I was like, okay, whatever. I guess money is not the motivator here. So we do the 2-day seminar, and I give my big thing at the end, and I say, and if you do it, and you're the most improved studio, you win what's behind that curtain, a new car. My best Bob Barker-ish thing. Yeah. So I hit the key fob, and then the alarm started going off and everything, and people freaked out, right? This is crazy. So after all this stuff happened, because this is back, when stuff like this wasn't being done.
Exactly.
There was no YouTube. It wasn't like, crap like this is just normal. There was no Instagram, right?
So much fun.
It was, and it was funny because I came up to my staff after and I said, okay, what happened? And they said, we can't believe it. And I said, believe what? They said 71% of the people said they want to do your coaching program. And I said, oh, what? That's it? And they said, that's it. Are you crazy? When you said you thought 80% of the people would do it, we thought you're out of your mind. If you get 10%, you'll be lucky. And I realized, wait a second, I don't think the same way most people think.
No.
Because in my mind, why, like, what's your problem? Why wouldn't you do this? Like, really? You don't like, hang on. I thought you said you didn't want to do this. What's wrong with you? So.
Yeah. $150 a month. That's insane.
Yeah. So that's,
what did they give people? $150. Like, how much time with you did they get?
Oh, we do group calls. They'd get 15, okay. But no, they'd get 15-minute coaching calls. It was funny because that's when, the first year I did, I made $250,000 that year, but I was working like crazy on the phone all the time and stuff. And I was in demand. And then, we started scaling the business up more and more and more, and it got to be a great business. Now, then stuff started fragmenting and kind of falling apart. I was doing bigger and bigger events. We'd rent 120-foot yachts to do events on there. We started doing cruises. It got crazy. As you know, I built this conference center in my backyard, right? Yeah. But the problem was then information started becoming commoditized.
Yeah.
People were, giving away stuff on free on YouTube and different things and content. And it just got to a stage where I really started scaling the business back in like 2016. Yeah. And then I said, we have to really change what we're doing here. So the big reinvention that we've went through recently is actually software based. So now we spent the last almost 3 years making software to actually run our business. And that's the next thing we're transitioning into.
Is this any business, or is this just you're focusing on first of all studios? Okay.
It's the studios because, the problem with software is that the stuff that's been given to that market is so generic. Yeah. Like it can work, but you can only go so far with Google Docs. So the problem with many software programs is the psychology behind them. And I have this belief that software, the people making software, if they're not the ones using it, they're going to do a crappy job. Like, don't you hate when you go onto a website and you try and buy something? It's like, I hate this. It's not working. It's timing out. It's crap. It doesn't work.
It's not intuitive. It's foreign.
It's like, there should be a rule that anyone that makes software has to make one of their family members use that software for the next month.
Absolutely.
Because good, you got your degree in computer science. Sure, it makes sense to you, genius. You got a degree in computer science. But if you're a normal person, like you have to be able to figure out how to use it. So we've went through the stuff with the psychology behind it, because my belief is that software is only a collection of ideas that you use to run your business. Mm-hmm. Whose ideas are you going to trust? A bunch of computer programmers sitting around a whiteboard that have never done your business? So the software that I saw, it was like, wow, it's made by programmers that have never sat at the front desk of a music studio before. They don't know they've never hired a teacher before. They've never had someone bail out last minute. They don't know what actually happens. Yeah. That's because the software company I was using, the funny thing is we used a software company that made software. They flew up to our studios and they said, we're going to train you because you're a VIP and all that stuff. And you referred business to us. I said, okay, fine. And I never figured this out until about a year ago. They flew up years ago to train us. Between 11 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, they sat down and said, you do this, you do this, you do this, do this, do this. Great.
Okay.
That makes sense and that's logical, right? Yeah. However, we're in the after school business when kids show up between 3 in the afternoon and 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
They didn't see what happened when we were actually trying to use it with a customer in front of us.
Wow.
Because it's a completely different thing. It's not like can you imagine teaching someone how to use bank teller software when there's no person at the wicket and they have to enter the stuff and put their check in? Easy. If it takes 3 times as long.
Yep.
And it's like, wait a second, if you sat there and saw them do 2 deposits with the new software and it's crappy and clunky and made the lineup go way out the door, and it's like, oh, hold on, the system's not letting me, it would suck.
Yeah.
But that was the thing that it was like, wow, these guys got it wrong. It's not if we know how to use it, it's when we're going to use it.
That's crazy good to know. Wow.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of bizarre stuff. Like psychologically, people don't think it through. They think, the job of the software is to do this. Like I had this discussion with someone that worked for us. I said, your job is not to hand out information to people and to send people emails and to give people pieces of paper. Your job is to make people understand. Those are things that we're doing to try and make them understand. So we get so confused. We think, well, my job is getting the information to them. It's, your job isn't getting the information to them. Your job is making them understand. And we used to have all these different papers and memos and say, oh, look at us. We're so organized and stuff. And I said, here's the one thing. Where you live and I live, George, there's a lot of people that don't really speak English.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that definitely don't read English.
That's true.
So we'd go and we'd print off a nice piece of paper and say, here you go. We got this thing. Read all the stuff. We're so organized. Go us. It's like we've just given them something. We may as well say, hello, this is a fan. You use it to put air on your face. It has these markings on here that mean nothing, but you can use it to put air on your face because that's all it's good for you. Yep. Next week, we'll give you another pretty fan. Bye-bye. So it's like, look, everything has to be digital because when it goes to their phone, it automatically translates it into their language, whatever that language is. Paper is stupid. So anyways.
Do you still do coaching? Or are you planning on doing that, continuing any of that?
I do a bit, still the real estate stuff, but I'm transitioning more and more into software stuff now. Yeah. Because, the coaching is good, but I find that if I'm giving people advice and ideas and stuff, in a way I like it, but I'd rather actually be using my own advice and my ideas on myself.
I got it.
Because it's kind of like I always wondered why the kids would be chasing Lucky to get his Lucky Charms. I mean, they're magically delicious. I get that part, right? Yeah. But I'm saying that I want my Lucky Charms. So, I got it. So I don't want to be giving them away.
What's your current philosophy of life?
Well, that's interesting. Do I sum it up in one sentence or a bumper sticker? Or?
Well, I said currently.
Currently. Changes, right? Well, I would say, really remember what game we're in and what's actually going on. So my current philosophy, as you know, I do believe we were created as human beings, and I believe God does exist in a world where people want to say, oh, because we have science, we have the internet. Oh, no, we've proven that this, that, and the other. Yeah, you've proven absolutely nothing. Yeah. This year I actually had some time on my hands because I wasn't allowed to do anything else. And I read Charles Darwin, Origin of the Species.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yep.
And the one thing I came to the conclusion of is that Charles Darwin's a total moron. Right?
Why? What led you there?
Well, if you look at the time, it's like 1850s and stuff, and there was the Age of Enlightenment, and there was neat stuff. Electricity was getting going, and locomotives, and all these inventions, and this different stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So around that time, when you come up with new ideas, it's like, okay, well, I guess since we've figured out the whole Industrial Revolution, we figured out how metalworking, we figured out, electricity, and we figured out, all these different things to make the world better and unlock the mysteries. Well, sure, the scientists must have figured out the solution to where does life come from and how does it evolve and stuff.
Right.
Well, Darwin himself admitted that his theory had several flaws. The fossil record completely disproves it. Right?
Yep.
And I always said this from day one. I said, well, yes, I know different species can evolve within their actual type.
Within their own kind. Yeah.
But this whole single cell thing, how come you can't crossbreed anything with anything if it all came from one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And how come they haven't found like thousands or millions of fossils over alleged billions of years in the transitionary state?
Yeah. And
no one's questioned that. And the other bigger thing is this. Darwin's supposed to know all this stuff, right? He ends up marrying his first cousin. They have 3 kids. They have 9 kids. 3 of those kids die. Dang. Because you shouldn't marry your own first cousin, no, Charles.
Wow. Wow.
Charles, you ape. So, and then their other ones have massive problems.
No kidding.
So this is the guy that now science is telling us that, oh, we have to give up on, belief in God, that there is a creator, And that basically, if you give up on that, it changes your view of everything.
It
You know,
totally does.
I've always thought the stupidest person I've ever seen is an atheist that lives by a moral code. It's like, you dumbass. Okay, so
Exactly.
you're going to bore it from the weak churchy people because it's, oh, I live by a moral code. It's like, listen, reactionary ape. If you're not super rich, you're not having as much sex as you want, and you don't have everything you want in this life, you are a terrible ape.
Yeah.
So figure out something better than saying, I'm kind of a loser at winning the battle in survival of the fittest, but I have
Yeah.
this moral code. It's like, come on, man. Like, don't bore all that stuff. So with all this reading and stuff I've been doing lately, it's like, I think we're at a time where if you do believe in God and a creator, you have to reinforce your beliefs because we're getting pushed in so many ways and so many
Yeah.
sides. This philosophy that I just disagree with. It doesn't make any sense. And I understand why people like, they want to say it doesn't exist. One of my favorite lines is from the movie The Usual Suspects with
Love it.
Kevin Spacey. Oh, sorry, before when Kevin Spacey was okay, I mean.
Yeah.
But and when he said, you know, the smartest thing the devil ever did was to convince people he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So my philosophy is definitely, you know, governed by my Christian beliefs, and you know that we're in a really small chunk of our existence right now,
Yeah.
and we can't lose sight of that fact. And you know, if people are searching and chasing and stuff, you know, sure, I'm in the business of selling success, and that's what people know me for. It's been an interesting thing. It's fine, but you know, the here and now of our success is such a small fragment of what we were created for.
Yeah.
And we can't get too excited about how great stuff is going for us or too depressed about how badly stuff is going for us because it's so temporary here.
It's
Right.
interesting. I love the story of the 50,000, and you felt that that was done by the hand of God in your life. And it seems to me, as we're having this conversation, that your faith in God plays a major role in your decisions and your philosophies and what you value moving forward. It's great to hear.
Well, it has to. You know, I mean, like if it's true, it's funny because I remember with all this current stuff, like the pandemic stuff,
Yeah.
like all this, if someone finds this in 50 years from now, right, this archive, but you know, with all this stuff, it was funny. You know, there was all the conspiracy theory stuff floating all over the place and stuff. And then you get the religious Christian people are like, oh, like, you know, if you get the vaccine, it's got the chip, it's the mark of the beast, it's this, it's that. It's
Right.
It's just the end time. So everyone worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of freaked out saying, oh crap, you know, what if it's true? What if it's all going sideways and stuff? And I thought, wait a second. First of all, if we do believe there is a God, and God knows about this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, in the Bible itself, it says, you know, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear,
Yep.
but a spirit of, you know, love
Yep.
and a sound mind, right? And
Yep.
power and love and a sound mind. So, but the second thing is, wait a second. What if all this stuff is what they say it is? And it is the mark of the beast and the Antichrist and the end times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, good. Because if that is right, it means everything else is right too. Do you know how annoying it's been for me for the last however many years trying to convince people I believe in these fairy tales? And yes, I'm right. Finally, some proof.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't care. It's not freaking me out. I'm not worried about any of this stuff. It's
No,
totally
I'm not.
fine.
I'm not freaking out either, and I share your faith as well. And it's so much. I mean, I don't know how people can live without this type of orientation towards life during this time. I have a real compassion for them, and I have close friends in our church that, you know, that just newly come to our church. They're just learning. It's wonderful to be able to walk with them and they're this newfound faith, and to be able to have these regular meetings with them, and they're just discovering, and they just discovered that scripture that you said about we haven't received the spirit of fear.
Yeah.
And he went on for half an hour. This is amazing. This is amazing. And it was just reinforced in me. And I think that's a really cool model. Jesus said, make disciples. And I think that just keeps us young,
Yeah.
young Christians in our faith. And I just think we need to keep doing it. Make disciples. If someone wants to come to faith, be there and help them along. It's great.
Yeah. And it's a time, where, so my philosophy is definitely, know what you believe and keep on believing it and don't get wavered, because I mean, I think we're being pushed in a way where, society, technology, culture is cool in a way.
Yeah,
But I mean, like, the stuff on TV and movie and Netflix, they don't call it programming for nothing.
exactly.
I mean, when I look at some of these people and see how misguided they are. Now, the funny, ironic thing is they'll think we're the misguided weirdos because of what we believe and stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, like, you religious wackos and stuff. It's like, I don't really think I'm a stupid or foolish person. And I tell people, I don't know if you believe in God, but if you lived my life for a year, you would. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Being an entrepreneur, I mean, I don't know. I'm an entrepreneur as well. And it's like when I started back into my coaching business last year, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 4 clients popped up, and it's only a job thing. I mean, it had nothing to do with it. People called me, "Are you coaching? I want to hire you." And I'm like, "Okay, we can talk about it." And it was, I haven't done any marketing yet, nothing. I'm still trying to catch up to everything. Another guy starting next week. It's like, it's totally a God thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could be an entrepreneur without that. It's amazing. What's your advice? What would your advice be for 20 somethings right now? These young people that are just starting off.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was 20 something, I could have been so sure in my advice of do this, this, and this, and this. And now you're asking me, I'm like, oh no, what did you ask me that for?
Yeah.
The best advice I can give them is, don't forget your long game. It's a long game that we're in. And sometimes people will get so impatient and want to have success right away.
Yeah.
And, with this always on society where they're pushing stuff in your face of, well, you can have this massive success accelerated so quickly, and you can have all this stuff, and you see this person on Instagram and this on Facebook and that on the news and this on, and the thing is, it's not like the stock market ever closes or Bitcoin ever shuts down.
Yeah.
It can drive you crazy. I would say, focus on your long game and don't worry about, oh, well, I want it all. I want it now. I think that's damaging people so much. This whole quick success thing. Yeah. I think it's almost like a child star that gets early success and then they have massive problems later on.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone wants to really trade places with Macaulay Culkin.
No.
Right. So I'd say, if you're starting out, be patient and, focus on the long game. It's funny because we started the call talking about Tesla stock, and I sold my Tesla stock and I made money, but I could have made so much more money if I would have held on to it. Yeah. And part of me, I kicked myself and I was like, oh no. Right. Like I'm talking about millions of dollars that I left on the table. Right. Yeah. And it's the worst when people I got to take it off my website so people can't say that and bring it up. Because I was at the factory. I mean, I was there in 2009 before I had an idea what Tesla was, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But 2 things came to mind. First of all, if you do believe in God, like I do, well, it's not like, well, God's not the money part. He's just in the sing the songs in the church part. Well, no. I mean, if I was supposed to still have it, guess what? I would.
Yeah.
But the second thing is this. To entrepreneurs, a large windfall of money isn't like the typical person that works at the cell phone store as a manager and they basically get to retire a bit early. It's great. Yeah. To entrepreneurs, money is fuel and money is a passport. Mm-hmm. And if you have too much of it, it can be scary and it can get you in so much trouble. Yeah. Because a guy like me, if you drop, $20 million on me, I'm not going to say, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just throw it on the pile. It will take me in places and make me do crazy things.
What new 50 businesses can I start this month?
Well, and the thing is, I mean, it's the contacts and puts you in touch with. It's the circles you get in touch with. It will take your life literally on a different path. Like if you're a person, well, even a person with no money, if you drop, I talked to a guy once that won a lottery. I was in Hawaii and we're staying on the top floor of a hotel in the penthouse level. And I talked to a guy, we're riding the long elevator down and we're waiting for the stupid elevator to get all the way to the top. Yeah. And I said, so what do you do? Like, Because anyone that's on that level, you want to know, like,
Yeah.
what are they doing, right? And he said, actually, I was a high school principal, but I won the Oregon State lottery. I said, oh, really? Wow. I said, so tell me about that. I read that 80% of lottery winners wish they hadn't won. And he said, no, that's not true. I really like the fact that I won. Okay, hold on. Get rid of that thing. And I said, so what's the deal? And he said, well, I took some of the money. I paid off my house and I retired. I put the rest in the stock market. And this was like right around 2007. He put in the stock market. Everything totally tanked.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, well, I lost a lot of it, but I'm still pretty happy. I'm like, well, maybe he liked actually being a principal, and he likes the fact that he won the lottery, but was it the best thing ever for him? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
My favorite lottery winner story ever is this one. There's a guy that won the lottery, and he was always down out in his luck. And the first thing he did, because they make you go public and tell everyone that you won the lottery. So before he went public, the night before, he made up a list of every single person he knew. And he phoned them at 8:00 at night. And he said, hey, man, it's me. Listen, I'm in a real tight situation financially right now. I can't tell you why, but can I come over to your house and can you lend me $500 tonight? I can't tell you why, though. I just really need this. Went down the list, called every single person he knew.
Nice.
No, sorry, I'd like to help you out. Can't, no. And right? The next day, went public. I'm like, that's how you do it.
That's brilliant. That's just brilliant. I love it. Was that a real story? Did you meet him, or does that just
not that one? I met the Oregon State one. Yeah, so for the 20-something people, I would say, it must be so demoralizing now for certain things. You see, where we live, houses are $1 million. That's just what they cost.
Yep.
And you see stuff shoved in your face all the time. Now, and I feel kind of like a bit of part of the problem, because I'm like, oh, you can do it. It's like, well, can you? It's like, I remember when I was in a store years ago, and I saw the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. It was the Cindy Crawford exercise video set. It's a workout series. Yeah. And I was like, wow, it's a 2-step series. It's called Be Born Cindy Crawford, and then say you worked out to look like Cindy Crawford. Great video, I'll take it. It's like she's never had an issue looking like she's naturally a thin person. Yes. Right? Yeah. And it's not like, I'd want to buy the workout series from someone that had massive problems, wrong body type and issues all around. And then they got to, that's not transformation at all. That's called, we'll say it's the working out. How about the beauty regimen too? Sure. Can you sell me that as well? So what's the first step? Be born Cindy Crawford. So I feel kind of like a bit bad that way, saying don't worry about it, because obviously I'm in a situation where stuff is good. Yeah. But I just think that, it can be so demoralizing for some of these people thinking I have to do this and I have to do that. I would really just take the pressure off yourself. Just, be content, and stuff is nice and it's cool, but it's not always the solution to problems. And it's not always like the natural thing that, happiness wise. No, the funny thing is with our kids, they're not like really into like lots and lots of stuff. And I used to think, because I did this, my kid should do that. They're not like that. Like my son's like, our house is way too big. I'd never want a big house like this. It's too much work. I'm happy in a small place. I'm like, well, that's good. Because then I don't have to worry about, it's going to be a letdown for you because it's not as good as, he doesn't care. Yeah, he's like, I'd want a place that's small management. I'm like, good. And the funny thing is, I grew up being like all into cars and cool stuff like that. Right. It's like, that's more your generation. I don't really like cars. I mean, they're okay and stuff, but why would you want a car that would be so fast? Or why would you want an expensive car like that? That's stupid. Yeah. I'm like, wow, this kid's smarter than I am. Like I'm chasing like, but it's so great. It's like, but is it? Yeah. Yeah. And so sometimes I feel guilty because I'm lumped in the success peddler band, right? Yeah.
I know we've talked about Steve, and when you first met him, and he was an amazing guy. Yeah. I was always curious about, you wrote 4 books with him, co-authored with him.
Yeah.
Why did you co-author with him? Why didn't you write your own book? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, here's the thing. When I found Steve's book, I was in the grocery store. And I was buying groceries, and I saw this book, and it was 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself.
Yeah, great
And
book.
I was doing a conference in Phoenix, and that's where Steve was. So I said, hey, can I hire you to speak at my conference? And he said, yeah, sure. So he came and he spoke, and he was like the best speaker I'd ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
So I hired him for 5 more speaking engagements. But the reason I hired him for 5 more, I thought I can slowly wear him down over the 5 visits and then convince him to write a book with me. He has the motivation part. I have the business information. We'll combine it. And slowly, it's like all those creepy 80s ballad songs. I will make you love me. I'm going to get you back. You're going to do it. I'm not stalking you. I'm just saying you'll love me eventually. Why are we so screwed up, George? I don't know. So anyways, Steve comes up to Vancouver to do a speaking gig and take him out to a nice restaurant. And I can tell you my super trick that some of your people can use here.
Yeah.
It's one little free thing I'll throw in. When you meet, and I've used this several times, I'll probably not use it with anyone on this call, or they can use it on me. But when you are doing a high stakes meeting with someone and you go out to a restaurant, the awkward part always comes at the end. It's a power struggle. It's weird. Who pays? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, give the check to me. No. Give it. Stupid. So what I do when I take out VIPs, and I've had to do this numerous times, and I'm pitching them on doing things. I go to the restaurant before and I say, look, my name's Sam. Just call me Mr. Beckford. Who's the server on tonight? Here's the deal. Here's my credit card. Take it down. Whatever the bill is, take that at 25% on. Okay? I don't want to see a bill. I don't want to hear a bill talked about. Nothing. Email me the receipt later. Got it? At the end, just say whatever you're going to say, but no mention of bill. So meal dwindles down. At the end, I say, you guys want anything else? Server walks over. It's like, oh, would you like anything else tonight? It's like, I don't know. I think we're good. That's good. Thank you. And then the server walks over and say, well, thank you very much, Mr. Beckford. It's been great seeing you again. Okay, have a good night. And they walk away. And I say, okay, let's go. And the person's like, well, what about the bill? Did you get the bill? I didn't see you and I always say by standard line, it's like, oh, you guys still have to pay for restaurants in Kansas City? That's weird. Well, let's go.
That's so funny.
Like, what? So anyways, I had my whole thing set up with my whole trick and all that stuff. So the first speaking thing, I say, we should do this thing. I'll do the business information. You do the motivation. It'll be like Reese's peanut butter cups. 2 great tastes. Tastes better as one. I have the information. Got it? So I thought he'd say, oh, that's a good idea. But, yeah, no. So I say it, and he says, yeah, it's a good idea. Okay. I was like, what? He said yes. It's like I felt like
no negotiation, no discussion. Just yeah.
I felt like Megamind. Have you seen Megamind?
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like Megamind when it actually worked, and he got rid of Metro Man. It's like it worked. I was like, I'm so used to things not working for me. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Please just say no instead.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to you next time. So I did that because it was basically piggybacking on his credibility, and he had the publishing arrangements. He had everything. I mean, this is before publish on demand. This is before internet, before Amazon, everything. So, I mean, because when we published, the next step was jumping to real bookstores. So like, we were in Barnes & Noble, we were in Borders, we were in Chapters, like physical hard copy, print thousands of books kind of deal. Yeah. So that's how the thing happened. After that worked out, so we did another one. So yeah.
And you wouldn't, do you want to write on your own or no?
Yeah, I have a new book that I've actually, it's funny. I had it ready to go before all the pandemic stuff, and I just didn't put it out. It's with a real publisher, and it's called Boring, Easy, Rich. And basically, it's about how you should choose a business or industry that's boring. Nice. Because if you're getting into crypto and social media management and all this kind of hot, trendy stuff, well, can you bank on that in 5 years from now? I mean, it can change in a week.
Absolutely.
There's guys that are doing courses running all over talking about fulfillment by Amazon. Well, that's awesome. Do you want to basically stake your business career on 20 years of fulfillment by Amazon, seeing how friendly Amazon is to merchants? Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah. I remember guys doing that with, how to be an eBay seller. It's like you never hear about that anymore.
No.
So you want to pick a boring industry, like something like music and dance. It doesn't change a whole lot. Right? I mean, if it hasn't changed much in the last 20 years, because you can't physically do it through the internet, right? it's not going to be radically changed. I know you can teach lessons online, but and the other one is you want to set something up so it's done in an easy way in an industry that's not swim with the sharks. Because I don't want to get up every morning and think, crap, I have to compete with Amazon and Starbucks. Here goes.
Yeah.
I want to be in industries where my competitors, like in the same way that Starbucks showed up and they were competing with Joe's Coffee Shop with the Smoky Donuts. It's not hard. Like, I want to be in businesses like that.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, yeah. And then, with the rich part, I think that, in the stage of get rich quick, it sounds nice and it's great and stuff. But, the slow plan, it's okay.
Yeah.
It just doesn't mess you up as much.
Yeah.
My dad's accountant friend, the Spanish guy, he said, be careful. This quick money confuses your brain. He never wants quick money. Oh, yeah, faster the better. Oh, we get some Bitcoin, we do some crypto. Oh, please, no. It's messing me up. I can't sleep.
I mess up close friends. It's crazy. Yeah.
And it just, I'm a terrible investor because when I'm right, I know I'm right. And I don't make small bets. I go all in. And also I realize that I have gambling urges and gambling hooks.
Yeah.
Well, think of it. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're taking chances.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you're taking chances on something you can control. But the problem with stocks, investing in crypto and all this kind of stuff, can you make money at? Yes. Can you lose money? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But how quickly can you find new opportunities to get into? Well, a business, at least you need a bit of lead time to start something else up.
Yeah.
But literally every 5 minutes, you could be day trading, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other. And I think that some of this investing, the 20-somethings have to look out because this could be a big monkey trap where you stick your hand through that hole and when you grab onto it, you think you have it, but it has you. And I mean, I think it can be a huge problem when you start gambling with pretty much everything you have because everything you have can be in there.
Yeah. 2 questions, and I want to get to the James Lipton finale.
Sure.
What would you like your children and grandchildren to remember about you? What legacy you want to leave?
Well, I think the biggest thing with my children and grandchildren would be, my faith and my belief that this is just a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Because if they believe that and they think I was smart, and there's an old hymn, Faith of Our Fathers. I want them to have the same faith of their father. So if I'm right, and I know I'm right,
of course,
then we can rejoin the circle up in heaven.
That's awesome.
As far as be a good person and always do your best, forget all of it. Look, don't give up the faith.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. What are you most grateful for in your life right now?
I'm grateful for my life.
That's awesome.
There's not one specific thing in it. I could say it's my wife, it's my kids, it's my this, it's my that, but just my life in general. I'm just glad we have the gift of life. Yeah. That's
great. So, I do this at the end of every interview because I was a big James Lipton fan. I don't know if you know who he is or if you remember James Lipton. Every Sunday.
I love that cup of soup. That was a gift he gave to the world.
Absolutely.
It's the same guy, right?
No, it's not.
Oh, no, Actor Studio.
Yeah, inside the Actor Studio. You always have those 10 questions. So I just do this to honor him. I think he was such a great interviewer. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. What is your favorite word?
Yes.
What's your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on?
Just being alive.
What turns you off?
I would say the thought of not being alive, but I would say just fearful people.
Okay. What sound or noise do you love?
Coffee maker.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The phone.
What's your favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word is
what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I have 2 if I'm allowed to. It was either going to be movie critic, if I could be like the old guys that would sit in the movie theater, that's all right. Or there are actually people that work for Ferrari that are the test drivers, and they have to test drive the new cars they're made.
Oh my gosh,
that would be all right.
That would be all right.
That would be all right.
What profession would you not like to do?
Anything that involves working for the government. As much as I love the way things have been handled for the last year.
Oh my gosh.
I'd love to be part of that.
No. If heaven exists, and we know it does, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Not perfect, but pretty good job.
That's a great one. All right. Thanks a lot for joining us, Sam. You're awesome, and look forward to seeing you even more as the things start to unpack. I can't wait to read that new book coming out.
Yeah, and hey, I'll give you because we can't touch, but we can bump it out, George. Come on,
Yeah,
bump it.
right.
Oh, yeah, there we go. All right.